Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. US President Joe Biden promises ironclad support for Israel amid Iran attack fears. Germany's airline Lufthansa suspends flights to Tehran. Russia attacks gas storage sites in Ukraine. UN Nuclear Agency IAEA's board to discuss drone strikes on Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and opposition Congress party leader Rahul Gandhi hold rallies in Rajasthan as election campaign gains momentum in India. And India celebrates Eid-ul-Fitr, marking the end of the fasting month of Ramzan. Prime Minister Modi greets people on the occasion. US President Joe Biden on Wednesday extended an ironclad commitment to Israel against any potential attack on it by Iran. Biden said it at a press conference jointly with Japan's Prime Minister Kishida Fumio. The development comes in the wake of reports that Tehran will retaliate against Israel's airstrikes on the Iranian consulate in Syria's capital, Damascus.
We also want to address the Iranian threat. They're threatening to launch a significant attack on Israel. As I told Prime Minister Netanyahu, our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad. Let me say it again, ironclad. We're going to do all we can to protect Israel's security.
German airline Lufthansa has suspended flights to Tehran because of the situation in West Asia. The region is on high alert for a possible Iranian retaliation over a suspected Israeli airstrike on Iran's consulate in Syria. An Iranian news agency briefly stoked tensions when it published an Arabic report on social media platform X saying that all airspace over Tehran had been closed for military drills. The report was removed afterwards. Lufthansa said that it suspended flights to and from Tehran from the 6th to the 11th of April. There was no immediate word from other international airlines that fly to Tehran. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said that Israel must be punished for the Damascus strike that killed 7 Iranian military personnel. In an apparent reference to Khamenei, Israel's Foreign Minister Israel Katz said that Israel will launch countermeasures if Iran attacks Israel from its soil. Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh said that the death of 3 of his sons in an Israeli airstrike will not influence peace talks in Gaza as operations on Thursday rocked the besieged enclave. Israel confirmed the killings, which came as Cairo hosted another round of talks on a ceasefire and release of hostages. The Israeli military described Haniyeh's sons as Hamas operatives. Speaking to a Qatar-based broadcaster, Haniyeh said that the strike, which also killed 4 of his grandchildren, was an attempt to shift Hamas's negotiating stance. Haniyeh is based in Qatar and is the face of Hamas's international diplomacy. His family home was destroyed in an Israeli airstrike in November. And DD India's Alex Kadia has more from Tel Aviv.
Well, that's what we seem to hear from US intelligence sources. It's what we've been warning about for days, if not weeks, or at least certainly since that strike against the Iranian consulate in Damascus. Certainly that is a big concern. Intelligence sources, US intelligence sources telling Bloomberg that there is an imminent risk of that strike, be it through a ballistic missile, be it through swarms of explosive drones. That's one of the other avenues we've heard the Iranians may use. So there is certainly a concern. It is front of mind for people here across Israel. Escalation both with Iran directly, but also with its proxies in the north. We've heard the leader of Hezbollah repeatedly saying that a strike would come It's not a question of if it comes, it's a question of when and how, and that how is crucial because the Israelis have said very clearly that if Iran strikes Israel directly, it will respond in kind by striking Iran, I should say, from Israel directly as well. We understand from those intelligence sources speaking to Bloomberg that we expect Iran to target either military or government institutions in Israel or around the region, but we don't know exactly when, we don't know exactly what, we don't know exactly how, and that certainly creates a climate of fear and anticipation to see what that retaliation may be.
A U.S. diplomat had asked the foreign ministers of some Arab countries to deliver a message to Iran urging it to lower tensions with Israel. Iran's foreign ministry said on Wednesday that the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar and Iraq spoke on the phone with Iran's foreign minister and discussed regional U.S. President Joe Biden is hosting the leaders of the Philippines and Japan in Washington, D.C. on Thursday. The three countries are expected to talk about economic ties and firm up defense deals that they see as crucial to securing the Indo-Pacific. Caroline Malone reports from Washington, D.C.
It was clear from Wednesday's White House events between US President Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Kishida that the two are similarly aligned in wanting to forge a positive alliance in the Indo-Pacific to secure a prosperous and safe region. To do that, they've announced key defense deals with the promise of more to come.
Under his leadership, Japan set in motion profound changes in its defense policies and its capabilities. Now our two countries are building a stronger defense partnership and a stronger Indo-Pacific than ever before.
As a global partner, Japan will join hands with our American friends and together we will lead the way in tackling the challenges of the Indo-Pacific and the world. Looking ahead toward the world will be like 10 years, 100 years and now, while tirelessly developing the relationships between our countries.
And ahead of Thursday's trilateral between the US and Japan and the Philippines, President Marcos said he sees the focus of meetings being on strengthening economic relations, but also on security. That, he said, the main intent of this trilateral is for us to be able to continue to flourish, to be able to help one another, and of course to keep the peace in the South China Sea and the freedom of navigation. The US, Japan and the Philippines, along with Australia, held military drills in the South China Sea over the weekend. Before those exercises, the four countries said they intend to uphold the right to freedom of navigation and respect maritime rights under international law. The implication of all of this is that they want to ward off increasingly assertive actions from China in the South China Sea. Well, President Biden said, alongside Japanese Prime Minister Kishida on Wednesday, that he will be welcoming another friend to the White House on Thursday, a sign of the warmer ties that are strengthening between all three countries. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
Meanwhile, hundreds of activists marched on the streets of Philippines' capital Manila on Thursday to protest against the trilateral summit among the US, Japan and the Philippines. The protesters condemned Philippines' President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. for using the country's assertion of sovereignty in the South China Sea to promote the geopolitical agenda of the United States. The Philippines, under Marcos, has deepened its military ties with both the US and Japan as maritime run-ins with China in the South China Sea have escalated. Right, moving on, Russia staged a major missile and drone strike on Ukraine's energy infrastructure on Thursday, damaging substations and facilities in 5 regions and causing emergency power outages for at least 200,000 people. Officials in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, said that the overnight attacks targeted Odessa, Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, Lviv and Kyiv. Russia also attacked 2 underground gas storage facilities in Ukraine. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky traveled to Lithuania's capital Vilnius on Thursday. Ukraine's military strength has dwindled as assistance from the West slows down and a U.S. aid package remains blocked by Republican lawmakers in the U.S. legislature. Ukraine's parliament on Thursday passed a bill to overhaul the rules governing how its military mobilizes civilians into its ranks as the conflict with Russia rages on with no end in sight. The bill is crucial for Ukraine to address what some military analysts say are major manpower problems as it fights a better armed and larger enemy. The bill was passed in its final reading with a majority of 283 votes after months of discussions. Switzerland will host a two-day international conference for peace in Ukraine on 15th and 16th of June. It will be held near the city of Lucerne. It will aim to create a framework favorable to a comprehensive and lasting peace in Ukraine. Russia will not take part in it. UN nuclear agency IAEA's Board of Governors will hold an emergency meeting in Vienna on Thursday at the request of both Ukraine and Russia to discuss attacks on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The IAEA says drones struck the Russian-held facility in southern Ukraine on Sunday, hitting one reactor building. It did not blame anyone but has demanded that such attacks stop. Russia had said that Ukraine had again attacked the plant with drones for a third day, but Ukraine said that it had nothing to do with such attacks and that any such incident was staged by Moscow. Russia and Ukraine have repeatedly accused one another of targeting Zaporizhzhia since it was captured by the Russian forces in the first weeks of Moscow's invasion of its neighbor in 2022. And DD India's Dasha Chernyshova has more from Moscow.
The confirmation from the Russian Ministry of Defense that in response to the Ukrainian attempt to target the Russian energy and oil refineries, all these sectors, Moscow has launched the massive strikes against the Ukrainian energy sector. And Moscow insists that it is targeting only the areas that are for the military, saying that the strikes that Moscow carried out have managed to disrupt the work of the military complexes, the military enterprises that have been producing and repairing arms. Moscow also says it is hitting the warehouses where the Western ammunition is stored and the places of the deployment of the Ukrainian military. Here, the Russian officials, they insist they want the fair assessments of the situation around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Just to keep you, just to remind you, Moscow insists it is Ukraine that is attacking this nuclear power plant, and that's why Moscow wants the IAEA as well as the international community to put pressure on Ukraine to stop what it describes as nuclear terrorism. The Russian foreign minister said that it's not just the situation around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, but in general around Ukraine, in which the Western officials have been taking the one-side angle and have not been commenting on the other side of the events, meaning by that the Russian position has always been neglected from the position of the Russian officials. So Moscow does want the international community to press on Ukraine. We've heard the Russian representative with international organizations in Vienna, Mikhail Ulyanov, saying that Ukraine has made it its daily routine to attack the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. And Moscow keeps insisting that the presence of its military at the site of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is the guarantee of the security in Europe.
Right, moving on. European lawmakers approved a revised immigration system on Wednesday in an effort to thwart gains made by the far right ahead of the bloc's parliamentary election in June. Reducing undesired immigration from West Asia and Africa is a top concern for the EU. Now, socialists and human rights advocates have denounced it as a setback to human rights.
The European Parliament has just voted in favour of a new way forward on asylum and migration. We have listened, we have acted, and we have delivered on one of the main concerns of people across Europe. This is a historic day for Europe. I want to thank members of the European Parliament who have spent years working on this.
It's been 5 years since WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange was forcibly expelled from Ecuador's embassy in London and into the hands of waiting British police officers. And since then, he has been fighting extradition to the US from an English prison on multiple charges of espionage. But his time in the UK could be close to an end. Stuart Smith has more.
After a series of appeal hearings, next week is the deadline for the US Justice Department to assure the High Court in London that Julian Assange will be treated fairly if deported to the US. If it doesn't provide those assurances, he'll be granted an appeal in Britain in May. Assange has been wanted by American authorities since 2019 for allegedly repeatedly violating the US Espionage Act, and he's been held at a British maximum security prison since then. His website, WikiLeaks, hosted tens of thousands of classified documents related to America's military and diplomatic activities worldwide. His supporters say the charges are politically motivated, and his conviction would represent an assault on freedom of speech and freedom of the press. The International Federation of Journalists, as well as press giants in the US, UK, France, Germany and Spain, have called for his release. But the US Justice Department says the publishing of some of those documents endangered the lives of informants. They claim he should not be treated as an ordinary journalist and that WikiLeaks was not an ordinary publisher. At court earlier in the year, they claimed Assange sought to solicit, steal, and indiscriminately publish US government documents, and he should be punished. England's High Court judges found the 52-year-old Australian can be extradited to the US to face justice there, but only if the US government can prove he will be treated fairly. It has until next week to provide those assurances, or he will be entitled to appeal this extradition. The US government must convince the court that he is afforded the same First Amendment protections as a United States citizen, which protects freedom of speech, and that the death penalty will not be imposed. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
Still to come on DD India Live. Asian Development Bank raises India's GDP growth forecast for the current fiscal to 7%. The latest updates on India's election as the campaigning gains momentum. And India celebrates Eid-ul-Fitr, marking the end of the fasting month of Ramzan.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. The UK has appointed Lindy Cameron as its new High Commissioner to India. The UK High Commission in India's capital, New Delhi, says that Cameron will take up her appointment this month. Cameron has been serving as the Chief Executive of the UK's National Cyber Security Centre since 2020. Her appointment comes as the UK and India are engaged in negotiations for a long-pending free trade agreement. South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol's ruling party suffered a resounding blow in Wednesday's parliamentary election. The country's liberal opposition party scored a landslide victory but fell just short of a supermajority. The main opposition, Democratic Party, and its allies together won 175 seats in the 300-seat parliament. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and some of his aides tendered their resignation after the loss. The election setback is likely to further tie President Yoon's hands domestically. The National Elections Commission is expected to confirm the final result later on Thursday. The Asian Development Bank has raised India's GDP growth forecast for the 24-25 financial year to 7% from its previous projection of 6.7% in December last year. According to the ADB's April edition of the Asian Development Outlook 2024 released on Thursday, the robust growth will be driven by strong public and private sector investment, strong services sector and improved consumer demand. The ADB says that the Indian economy grew remarkably in the 22-23 fiscal with strong momentum in manufacturing and services. The ADB's growth forecast for FY25 is in line with the projections made by India's central bank, the Reserve Bank of India, which had projected a 7% GDP growth rate in the current fiscal. Right, let's now get you the latest on the world's largest democratic elections in India. Election season is at its peak in India, with parties holding public meetings as the first phase of polling is scheduled for 19th of April. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed an election rally at Karoli in the western state of Rajasthan. Earlier in the day, he held a public rally at Rishikesh in the northern state of Uttarakhand. He slammed the Congress party, accusing it of misappropriating funds intended for the welfare of the poor and youth.
जब कांग्रेस की सरकार थी तो गरीब का, नौजवान का पैसा बिचौलिए खा जाते थे। भाजपा सरकार लोगों के हक का पैसा सीधे उनके बैंक खाते में ट्रांसफर कर रहा है। उत्तराखंड के किसानों को पीएम किसान सम्मान निधि का 2,600 करोड़ रुपए से अधिक उनके खाते में जमा हो चुके हैं। कांग्रेस की सरकार होती तो ये सब कुछ लूट जाता। ये लूट मोदी ने बंद की है और इसलिए मोदी पर उनका गुस्सा 7वें आसमान पर है।
Not only Modi, but several of BJP's star campaigners are holding rallies. Home Minister Amit Shah held a public rally in the central state of Madhya Pradesh. He was to also hold rallies in Maharashtra. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh visited Madhya Pradesh and held a public meeting at Mauganj. BJP President JP Nadda addressed a rally at Port Blair in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Minister V. Muralidharan on Thursday accused Kerala's Communist Party of India Marxist of threatening him. He alleged that the CPIM goons even attempted to attack the campaign vehicle and hurled abuses at him. Posting a video of 3 men on a bike attempting to assault him, the minister took to X, and I quote, "I will not be intimidated by the goons of CPIM Kerala who threatened me during the campaign and even attempted to attack the campaign vehicle," unquote. Meanwhile, opposition parties are also going all out to woo voters. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi visited Rajasthan. He held public rallies at Bikaner. He was to also visit Jodhpur for a public meeting there. Bikaner will go to the polls in the first phase on 19th April, while Jodhpur polling will be held on the 26th of April. Meanwhile, the Congress leaders K.C. Venugopal and Ramesh Chennithala held campaigns at Alappuzha in the southern state of Kerala. Venugopal is contesting from Alappuzha. Muslims around the world are celebrating Eid-ul-Fitr, one of the biggest occasions in the Islamic calendar. Eid-ul-Fitr, which means festival of the breaking of the fast, is celebrated at the end of Ramzan, a month of fasting for many Muslims. It's a time for spiritual reflection and show kindness to one and all. DD India's Kirat Chawla reports.
The sighting of the crescent moon marks the end of holy month of Ramadan, a joyous occasion filled with prayers, feasting and festivities. In India, people were seen offering mass prayers at mosques and exchanging greetings on the auspicious occasion from the north to the south. Leaders across India extended their wishes and greetings to the citizens of the country. President of India, Draupadi Murmu, extended a heartfelt greetings to the countrymen on the auspicious occasion of Eid-ul-Fitr and said that this festival spreads the spirit of unity, harmony and brotherhood. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar greeted the nation on the auspicious occasion, saying heartiest greetings on the auspicious occasion of Eid-ul-Fitr. Symbolizing the spirit of gratitude and togetherness, this festival reminds us of the values of compassion, generosity and brotherhood that resonate with the ethos of our diverse nation. May this Eid bring joy, fulfillment and abundant blessings to the lives of all. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also extended Eid greetings to the people. In a post, he said, and I quote, "Best wishes on Eid-ul-Fitr. May this occasion further spread the spirit of compassion, togetherness and peace. May everyone be happy and healthy. Eid Mubarak." The crescent of the new moon signifies the beginning and end of fasting during Ramadan. It is during this month that Muslims believe the first verses of the Quran, Islam's holy book, was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. During this period, Muslims fast and give to charity to show kindness and patience and strengthen their relationship with God. With Bureau Inputs, Kirit Chawla's report for DD India.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.